The official Sunday box office projections are done for Avengers Endgame, so we can see where does Endgame line up against Avatar before the Endgame re-release next weekend. Right now it's projected to be 13th in the US box office for Sunday with $559,000. So that's where it's sitting at right now, and that's following the kind of trend that it's been going on for quite a few number of weeks. So that's pretty much in line with the expected amount of money. So what we'll need to see is what exactly it gets next weekend. What is actually going to happen with the Avengers total with this so-called re-release? So that brings the official total for Endgame for Sunday to $2,749,603,966, which is a little bit under $27 million less than what Avatar got for the smaller of Avatar's totals. There is another figure that's another $11 million bigger, but using the smaller total, it needs about $27 million more to beat Avatar. And so if this trajectory continued on for the kind of money it's earning, which I don't think is going to happen anymore because of the re-release, and I don't think re-release is the right word for it because it's still in release. It's not being re-released, but that's what they're calling it. So if this re-release wasn't happening, I think it would have gotten about $15, maybe $18 million. That's less than the $27 million. It would have fallen short. It's not going to get that kind of money anymore, I don't believe. It's going to earn more money. So the real question is, will it earn enough extra money over what it looked like it was going to earn to actually go over the top of Avatar? And as I said in my video last week, I believe that it will. But let's have a look at some other examples and see what kind of monies may be possible. I mean, how much money can it make? What could perhaps Endgame make with this extra release? So first of all, here are some of the numbers from the Phantom Menace re-release, and it made about $43 million extra in 2012. So originally it was released in 1999. 2012 they came out with a 3D version, so there was actually something different to see. It was a different experience, very different to what we have here for Endgame, where by all accounts I've seen, the movie is completely unchanged. They've just got some extra footage, which some places are calling Blu-ray footage, that's being added to the end of the credits. So you've got a different experience here with the actual Star Wars Phantom Menace release, a little bit different. But you can see it had an $8.6 million Friday open. Now that may include a Thursday advanced screening. I'm not sure if there is advanced screenings involved, and I don't know if Endgame's going to have the same thing. Seems a bit weird even just calling it an advanced screening when it is the same movie that's currently out, but I don't know if Thursday will have it and then Friday will have it really open. I don't know, if that's what the deal is here. But nonetheless, here for the Star Wars film, 8.6 million, then it got 8.5 for Saturday, then it had a 5.3 for Sunday, and then the next weekend, February 17th, massive reduction to 1.9. So a lot of demand, very nice opening weekend, if you like, for a film that, people had already seen before, and then quite a big reduction after the open, and as I said, it went on to make $43 million extra in 2012. And here's another Star Wars re-release. This is for Star Wars A New Hope from 1977. According to these figures here, it claims that the last official screening for it originally was October 1st, 1982. So 5 years after it was originally released, more than 5 years after it was originally released, from May in 1977, October 1st, 1982. But the re-release was the special edition of Star Wars A New Hope, which had extra footage, which I think made it worse. None of the extra footage I think is worthwhile, but nonetheless, it had extra footage that you wanted to go see. I guess some of the updated special effects might be better. The main problem with the updated special effects, I think, is that they didn't update them all, and it's very clear where you've got the old original model stuff and the new computer graphics, but nonetheless, the Jabba the Hutt stuff and the whole Han shoots second stuff was absolutely terrible. But putting all that aside, $35 million for its opening right there. That's pretty good. Although looking at these numbers here, because they're quite old, okay, that's not actually for the day, I believe that's for the week. So these are the weekly figures, not daily. So that's not quite as good, but that's still very nice money for 1997. And you can see that the weekly totals, they actually hung around a little bit there. It's actually not that bad. For January 31st, then February 7th, February 14th. It's not halving the money until about the fourth week there. So it actually sustained a fair bit of money. But again, this is for Star Wars Special Edition, where they inserted some extra scenes and they had some different computer graphics in place of some of the original models. We've got nothing like that with Endgame, so it's not really fair to compare it to this, but this is another example of quite a successful re-release. So I think this is about the best one to compare it to. I've actually got two figures here. On the left-hand side, we've got Avatar, and on the right-hand side, these are just the current numbers for Endgame. So the right-hand side hasn't got any re-release stuff yet. This is just currently where Endgame is actually running at, and the three green figures down the bottom, that's the projected figures for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at this stage. So on the left-hand side, these are the Avatar numbers, and you can see around about the middle where it actually jumped up where the film was actually re-released. So the last official actual viewing of it, according to these figures here, was August 8th, 2010, where it got like $3,998, and it was only showing on one screen in the North American market at that stage, according to this. So one screen was showing it, then it was finished, it was done, and then about 2 weeks later, it was re-released on August 27th, and it opened to 812 screens, or 812 cinemas, I should say, maybe more screens than that, but it was only showing at one theatre, and then it's re-released to 812 theatres, and earned $1.2 million there, and it's open. It got another 1.5, another 1.2, and then the next weekend after that, September 3rd, it had dropped down to 500,000, so a bit of a steep-ish drop there, a bit more than 50%. So again, fairly steep way in which it's keeping the money, and that's from quite a while ago. Obviously, that's nearly 10 years ago, so the movie business has changed quite a bit since then. You don't retain the same kind of money as they used to retain back at that actual period. So that's an example, I think, that's probably more fair to look at, because the movie wasn't that far out of being out. It's only a couple of weeks after it was actually in the movies that it was put back on, so it's not like this sort of 12-year gap for The Phantom Menace, or was it 20-year gap for the original Star Wars A New Hope. And as far as I know, it doesn't have too much different. It is called Avatar Special Edition. I'm not really sure what is different about it. It may very well be quite a bit different. I'm not sure about that. But just going on the proviso that it's not too different and it was just actually relaunched due to demand after it had finished, that's kind of what you've got going on here with Endgame, except Endgame's not finished yet. So you can see on the right-hand side here, the column around about the middle, the one that's got 3,105 at the top, that's how many theatres it's currently showing in. So it's still showing in 985 different theatres in the North American market. So very different. So again, if you look at the left-hand side there where you've got Avatar, Avatar was still down to one theatre, and then it was down to none, and then it was re-released. This is still on nearly 1,000 different theatres are showing this. Now, they may only be showing it on one screen for one session per day. That's what that means. Or they may be showing it on 50 screens 1,000 times a day. We don't know what the actual sessions are from these figures, but that's the minimum amount that's happening right now. 985 sessions is the minimum amount in the North American market. I'm sure it's a lot more than that is actually what's happening. But again, it's not really a re-release, but the main question is, what will it increase to? Okay, it's going to increase. I just don't think it's going to continue with the current trajectory. It's currently getting about $500,000, roughly. That's what it got approximately on Friday. It's approximately what it's got on Sunday. What's it going to get on next Friday? So we've got about $27 million extra it needs from this point on. I think it was looking like it'll get about $15 or $18 million, so about half, let's just say. So it looked like it was going to get about half the target. So it basically needs to double the amount of money it was earning to beat Avatar. That's a rough way to look at it. But it looks like with these re-releases, you get a lot more money up front, and then it dies even quicker. So what we're looking for on Friday is way more than double the money to even make this feasible. Okay, so right now I've got $500,000 for this Friday. If it doubles that next Friday and gets $1 million, which really doesn't sound like a lot of money at all for this whole bother to go for, if it makes $1 million next Friday, that's not enough, because that'll die off quicker than that. So it really needs to make a lot more than double the current Friday figure to have a chance of earning this $27 million, which I think it obviously will. I think it's looking to earn quite a few millions of dollars. I wouldn't be surprised if it had something like $5 or $10 million on the Friday. I haven't seen any predictions from anyone sort of credible as to how much money they think it'll make. I have absolutely no idea how much it'll make. I can see an argument for it not making a lot of extra money because there's nothing there to see. Seemingly, it's got a tribute to Stan Lee. It's got some extra footage from some scenes that were cut, and that's about it. That's what I understand is in it. It's all after the credits, so you've got to sit through 3 hours again, which hopefully you don't mind. If you like the film, you're sitting through the film to see it again. But it is a long film to actually sit through, and it's just for some extra scenes that'll probably be available online the day after it's released anyway, so you'll be able to see them quite easily. So I can see an argument why this won't propel it forward, but I can also see that people will want to go see the film one last time while it's still actually in the movie. So I do think it's going to be increased by quite a few millions of dollars, but I really don't have an idea of, is it going to be $10 million, is it going to be $5 million, is it just going to be $1 million? Well, if it only gets $1 million on this Friday, I'm going to say it won't beat Avatar with that kind of money. It needs to go way beyond that. Again, it needs $27 million extra, and with the current trajectory, I believe it's looking at about half of that at this stage. So I'll quickly go through where I'm coming up with this $15 million figure. Right here are the raw numbers for the last couple of weeks for Endgame on the left and Infinity War on the right. Infinity War got a total of $678 million. It's currently on $669 million for this equivalent Sunday for day 59. So it earned an extra $9.2 million from here on out. So I don't think Endgame can match that. Endgame's been earning about 75% of the money Infinity War has been earning for the last several weeks. It's 76.4%, but 75%. And so if it keeps that up, if it gets 75% of this $9.2 million Infinity War got, it'll get about $7 million extra. So I think that's the best figure to use right now. The Endgame would have gotten $7 million. Now, this isn't happening anymore. This is all complete conjecture because of the re-release. These numbers won't pan out anymore. But $7 million extra is what I think it would have gotten in the US domestic market for a total of $841 million. And on the international front, it got $3.1 million from the previous Sunday to this Sunday, which was a 46.6% reduction. If it continues with a 30% reduction from here, which I think is unrealistic, it'll get $10 million extra. If it goes with a 40% reduction every week from here on out, which I still think is a bit low, it'll get about $8 million. So $8 million I think is a reasonable amount internationally, $7 million from US market. That's where I'm getting the $15 million from. And just to make things a little bit more complicated, there are two different numbers floating around for how much money Avatar actually earned. I've been using the low figure of $2.776 billion because it didn't look like it was going to get there anyway, so why not just use the smaller of the two numbers? But there is the $2.787 billion number out there as well, which is $11 million extra. That's probably the real figure it has to hit. So I've been saying it has to get $27 million extra to get there. It very well maybe needs to get $38 million to actually beat the bigger of the two totals that's floating around to really be number one in the box office. As I said in my video last week, I think this will work. I think it'll beat Avatar because of this re-release, or whatever name you'd like to call what they're doing here. But there may be some reputational harm they take as well. I've seen quite a lot of comments going around from people I've talked to, and just sort of headlines of articles about how this is basically a dirty trick, and that seems to be the way that a lot of people are viewing this. And I'll agree it is a dirty trick, but there are no rules with a box office, and at the end of the day, if you can do something and people actually turn up and buy a ticket, then that's what the business is, to get people to turn up to buy a ticket. But it does seem like, at least maybe for people that aren't hardcore MCU fans, that this is what people think it is. This is just a dirty money-grabbing trick to try to just eke out a little bit extra money to be number one. So maybe there's a little bit of reputational damage that they're actually going to incur here. And obviously it might not work as well. Okay, so this may not work, and I can completely see why it wouldn't work, because there's nothing new here in the film, at least according to the stories I've seen. This isn't a new movie. So if you're not going to see it right now, why would you suddenly see it next weekend? I'm not sure, but I still think it'll work. You got Spider-Man coming out the week after it. They're looking for some synergy between Spider-Man, Endgame, getting more theaters to show it, and so on. So I do think it'll be able to earn more money than it looked like it was going to earn. And the real question is, will it make this $27 or $38 million to become the number one film of all time? Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time.